will call our subcommittee meeting to order, and I'll start with a roll call on the left.
Frank Mills.
Karla Desjardins.
June Gagny.
Marianne Chinati.
Okay, we do have a quorum, and there are no alternate members to appoint, so we'll move right on to the new business. And this is the discussion regarding the cannabis regulations. So the office, the staff had put together some draft proposals, and then also had provided some examples of some regulations from some other towns in Connecticut. Did staff want to kick off?
Just basically, my cover memo outlined the municipalities that have, some of the municipalities that have banned the use outright, either by ordinance or by zoning regulation, or have permitted them in some degree. And I've included copies of all of those towns in your member packets. And I did also include the draft amendments for either prohibiting completely or allowing by regulation, to basically start the commission off in the discussion. I also looked up, as of today, provisional licenses issued by the state are 22 retail, 7 cultivator, and 1 micro cultivator.
Anything to add, Marion?
No, very actually this week.
Oh, okay, very good. So for board members, you have 2 proposed drafts in front of you. I think in our last conversation, I think the general consensus was that we wanted to move forward with regulations to allow. But if you had comments on which direction you want to go.
I was curious, what's the scope as far as planning and zoning and all that?
Sure. So as it stands right now, if we do not have any regulations at all, then this use would be allowed as any other retail would be allowed. Please correct me if I speak
No, that's
off
Any
key
other
here.
similar use?
Any other similar use. So we wouldn't be able to put any additional restrictions unless we regulated it. And we wouldn't be able to completely prohibit the use unless we prohibited it. So they would come forward.
Time constraints?
We have a 6-month moratorium, so we have that time to determine if we want to add these regulations. Yeah,
You could also extend the moratorium if you need to.
sure. Because we would have to have the regulations resolved within the 6-month period,
Yeah.
right? And we still have to go through a public hearing process
Correct.
and all of those other windows. So an extension, depending how long it takes us to draft and present, then it could take time.
Exactly.
Okay. Anything?
Do we have any data on the impact of these towns that do allow, have we gone anywhere? Has it gone
Are any of
any
them
direction?
open yet?
Yeah, do we have anything to go by?
The ones with the issued licenses have not opened up yet. Many municipalities consider it as a regular retail use or a regular manufacturing use for the cultivation. So they don't have any specific regulations to address cannabis. They have issued permits for the uses in the standard retail and or manufacturing zones.
So we don't have too much to go by. I mean, the advantages of it's legal in Connecticut, so
Correct.
each town has to have some kind of regulations.
Doesn't have to,
Definitions.
but if the town doesn't have, as the chair stated, if the town doesn't have regulations, it's
Down across from Agway. So Agway is a commercial building. Next to the ECC is another commercial retail building.
right.
So if we have no regulations, if we have no regulations, then they could move right next door to that school.
A retail use.
Is that something that we would want allowed? Because we have regulations right now, a liquor store could not go next to a school, right? So would we want to set a similar regulation where we treat a cannabis operation like we would a liquor store? We wouldn't want it next to a school.
Is there a cannabis operation going on right now in Connecticut? Is there one in the nearby state?
None have opened in Connecticut. Massachusetts has opened.
Okay. I'd like to go visit one of these things.
Yeah, I know they're open in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Have you had information about, are the towns making out at all by having dispensaries?
You mean, is it benefiting them
Right,
financially?
Right,
That I
financially.
couldn't answer.
Or
Massachusetts.
traffic.
Their tax structure too is different than ours.
So with our tax structure, there are 3 uses that provides tax to the towns. One of them is retail, micro cultivator sales, and I can't remember the third one off the top of my head. But you get 3% of retail sale taxes directly to the town, but it's only for very specific uses. You can dress up the area, streetscapes and whatnot around in the vicinity of it, which it's not defined on how far up you go. But you can dress it up. You can use for work programs, for people recently released from incarceration. You can use for programs for addiction, things of that nature. So it's very limited uses. In
But
Massachusetts-
regardless of that, our statutory authority is within the planning and the zoning. So financial impact would not be something that we would regulate or use as a considering or
Right.
judgmental factor.
Correct,
Yep.
the commission,
Yep.
the question was raised, has Massachusetts
Yeah.
tax worked out? Well, their tax structure, they're allowed to use the taxes for much more than what
Sure.
Connecticut is.
Ah,
So that would be with the outside our school.
Yeah,
So,
that's outside our jurisdiction.
Right.
so the major problems Massachusetts had was with traffic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, traffic's definitely in our
That's what-
So
jurisdiction,
Yeah.
anytime you have the first one open, you are going to have major traffic.
because it's the only one in.
Right.
yeah.
Right, and then it diminishes.
So from our perspective, it's, number one, do we want to allow it? Number 2, where do we want to allow it? Number 3, how do we want to allow it? By right, by special permit? So there's really kind of 3 questions
Right.
we have to ask ourselves when we're looking at this. So we have the draft, and actually you have 3 choices to the first question, right? If we do absolutely nothing, a proposal could come in under the regulations as they currently are.
right.
So that's the first thing. In looking at our regulations, do we feel they meet the needs of that type of retail operation or agricultural? Because it could be the manufacturing, agricultural aspect of it. Then, second piece of that, do we want to prohibit it? Or do we want to have specific regulations for it because maybe it's a more unique use that would lend itself
That
to
the
different.
commission may want to permit, but have a little more oversight.
Right, so that's kind of the first question we have to ask ourselves, how do we want to proceed? Then, once we make that determination, if we go the regulate route, regulate more specifically, then it would be like looking at where would we want to allow it and how would we want that process to move forward.
But I remember in 2018, planning and zoning passed, it was something, someone wanted to have a dispensary here, and it never came to be. It was, do you remember that?
And also medical marijuana.
Yeah, for medical
They
marijuana.
were granted a permit for the old Lane P Plaza, but the state's not granted a permit.
Oh, the state, they have a final say in who
Correct.
does what.
Yes. So we can't allow someone to have cannabis operation unless the state has already given them a license to do
Okay,
it.
right?
Other way around.
Yeah,
Oh.
they need permission.
Oh, they get
from the
permit
town
from us
before
first
the
and
state
then,
will issue.
oh, okay. But then, if the state denies, it makes their application with us moot.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. That's a lot of work.
As far as growing the product, is that already permitted?
No.
Okay.
So I
If
believe,
we allow the agricultural zoning of this, do we have to allow the retail and manufacturing aspects to it?
you can pick and choose.
Okay. All right, that's good to know.
And the sample regulations that would allow it, that I submitted for a jumping off discussion, I proposed special permit use.
And in the manufacturing process, would that be noticeable by the community as far as, I don't know, smell?
Well, I would not recommend allowing it unless it were inside a building with proper filtration.
So,
Is there any hazardous conditions in that?
Pardon me?
Is there any hazardous potential, explosives, chemicals, environmental impact?
No, the one major drawback is odor.
Yeah.
Okay,
They have a water filtration type system in a lot of the processing plants and indoor grow operations. It's kind of like the water curtain and in front of the ventilation system. So that's one way they control it. If you don't have something like that in place, then the odor will travel for a long ways.
Well, remember the hemp field across from K&H? I guess that did smell, but I know they put it, that was allowed. That was allowed in the agriculture.
but that was just growing, they
That
weren't
was just
processing,
growing,
right?
Yeah.
Well, they're also processing on site.
They were,
They
in a building?
They had a tent set up.
Okay.
and the intent of the product, is that strictly medicinal, or is it for recreational?
What these would be, this is for adult recreational use.
Okay.
As far
Or
as,
you could do a hybrid medical.
as far as growing goes, it could be grown for either medical or recreational.
Okay. I mean, there's also uses for hemp, that,
Right.
clothing, textiles,
Rope.
stuff like that. But, I mean, is this, so the agricultural thing, it doesn't matter, but it's used for,
I
that
think there's-
product would go to a market.
But
and be
there's
bought.
different regulations because hemp products that are agricultural do not have the THC levels that cannabis does. So the state classifies them differently, so I think we would have to as well.
We can grow hemp right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep,
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that was
It's-
approved
That's
like 4 or 5
unrelated
years
to this.
Yeah.
When I was here, so.
yeah,
Right,
we're in
18.
No more than 4.
yeah.
All right, so here's an interesting question. If we did allow the agricultural aspect, would we have to worry about security of that crop, of that field?
Actually, that's included in the draft regulations.
So I would just
Was
ask
that emailed
members,
or was that mailed?
Email. Katie emailed them all.
and Katie did say she would print copies, so that's how I got my packet, was I asked Katie to print it for me.
Okay,
so
all
that-
right, thank you.
So on page 1 of the draft regulations, there is a security plan required, and this is also based on what the state requires as well, correct? So security plan, digital surveillance must be part of the application, security consultant to review plan, fire department, fire marshal. Then it also does address the growing, manufacture, or retail sales of cannabis shall not create the emission of dust, odor, fumes, smoke, waste, noise, and it has a list of things. And then it does include a facility odor mitigation plan. Yeah.
It says traffic.
Mhm.
So if it was a big problem with traffic,
Yeah.
could it be regulated?
And then further down, it does talk about all chemicals used, must include the safety data sheets, a detailed plan for storage and potential containment of hazardous waste substances shall be included. So it sounds like all of that is addressed, and then traffic control and impact study. And once again, special permit, so it would be a public hearing process for each application.
All right, and our 6 months to complete this, when's the expiration date?
You know when the clock started ticking?
Last month, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it was last month.
So we're about 1 month into the 6 month.
Yeah. Actually, I want to say, I think it was September. I think it was September.
Because we did the moratorium, and then last month we talked about having the subcommittee. Okay, so we're 2 months into the 6 month.
Okay, so we're looking at, should be done by March.
But we can extend depending on our progress.
Okay.
Because if the subcommittee determined that we weren't going to change any regulations and just move forward as we are, then the process is over. If we determined we wanted to prohibit, then we would look at the draft prohibition regulations and present those for public hearing or the regulations. So it just depends how long we take to go through the process. Yeah.
Great.
So is there a direction that you want to go in or any inquiries you want staff to do so that,
Well, clearly I need to review that package.
Okay.
I did not see the email, so
okay.
it's been election season, so the inbox is full of lots.
Ads.
I am well aware.
It's like, thank God it's over with.
Copies.
No, I agree, having
Yeah.
paper, I'm a
Yeah.
paper person, so I liked having all of this to refer to, so I agree.
So that's good.
I
Better
agree.
things addressed in there. So, and now I need to do a field trip to Massachusetts.
Okay. So are there any other items that you want to discuss or review tonight? Or do we just want to adjourn this evening's meeting with kind of our homework to do and then reconvene next month to see what direction we want to go?
Yeah, we should really do more homework. I'd like to do more homework to maybe a field trip.
The traffic issue, that was a good point. I didn't think about that.
I just want to see the advantages to having, to allowing, instead of just saying no.
Does the state require that a facility be off of a state roadway?
No, that's not required.
But we could.
I put it in there because
Okay.
that way, the state took away the limit on you're allowed 1 per 25,000 population.
Yeah.
They eliminated that. So you could have 100 in a 15,000 population community.
Yeah.
But by limiting locations, that addresses.
And what made me think of that was, you know, from a manufacturing perspective, we have Morgan that is off of Moosa Pond.
Yeah.
So would we necessarily want one of these facilities on a town road like that? Or would we want that to stay on Route 12, Route 14, on one of the main roadways, not a side road?
The draft
So-
regulations limited to state roads.
Yeah.
And off the highway for,
State
I
roads.
don't, I'm wondering, do these attract business to town? I'm thinking.
Oh, like
I'm thinking-
accessory businesses?
Right,
or-
they're gonna stay here for lunch and, you know, if it's gonna be good for economic development.
I think there's probably a lot of Connecticut
That's
people
what
who
I
run to
wonder.
Massachusetts and just come home.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
Get off the highway,
Yeah.
go, like Monmouth has one, right?
They have a medical
Did you-
dispensary.
Oh, that's medical, yeah, I forget, that's different.
Yes, it's totally.
They have to have prescription.
Which creates a lesser traffic issue because it's not at will,
Right.
you know. All right. So we have no minutes to act on from previous meetings since this was our first one. I don't believe there's anything to address under other.
We determined the quorum.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yep, 3 is our quorum. There were no alternates to appoint.
Does there have to be a chair? Does there have to be a chair for the committee?
Oh, for the subcommittee?
Well, it would be a good idea to elect one, but seeing our chair is here, presumption was made.
Yeah. Anyone else wanted to share? So if we're all comfortable with me chairing the subcommittee as well, I'm happy.
That's fine, I just thought
Yes.
because it was
Okay.
a sub of P and Z that you were automatically
Yeah.
chair.
I made the same
I didn't
assumption,
think
so. All right, with no other items on this to discuss, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll.
Second.
Yeah.
All right, motion by June, second by Frank, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Subcommittee meeting is adjourned. We'll have a short break. Oh, interesting.
so.
All right, you got your recording device ready. All right. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, Wednesday, November 9th. And I will call the meeting to order and start roll call on the left.
Frank Bells?
Raj Shivik. Karla Desjardins.
June Gagnon.
Brian Bright.
Mary Ann Chinati.
Katie O'Neill. All right, so we do have a quorum, and there are no alternates to appoint. Starting with public hearing, item A, Robert Jones requesting accessory dwelling unit under section 12.28.2 at 155 Weston Road, Assessors Map 3, Block 51, Lot 13, RA 60 zoning district. Do we have someone to speak for the applicant?
So I submitted a plan for the lower apartment, my mother-in-law's, my father passed away. I live in the back, she sold the house to my daughter, she's living with me. I've already been working with the building department as far as making sure I haven't completed it yet, so. My COs are now going to come apply for this part.
Any staff comments on the submission?
So it was submitted as a 479 square foot apartment, but we go, that's interior dimensions, it was excluding stairways and closets. So I calculated at 700 square foot. The house, the main dwelling is approximately 2,200 square foot, so the ADU is approximately 35% the size of the house, and it is within our regulations, within the scope of the regulations. So I have no issues with it.
Okay.
So I do have some suggested conditions of approval for deliberation.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience with a comment or question on this application, now is your opportunity. Okay, hearing and seeing none. Any questions from board members of the applicant? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on the public hearing.
Motion closed.
Motion to close by Frank, second by June. All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is closed, and we will come back to it under old business. All right. Moving on to the regular meeting, calling to order. Additions, corrections to the agenda. We do have 3 items under new business and 1 item under other. So I would ask that the commission consider adding item A, 22AZC of East Main, item B, 229ZC of Planning and Zoning, and item C, 22-10ZC of Plainfield Garages and Storage, as well as approval of meeting dates under other. Do I have a motion to add those items to the agenda?
I'll make that motion to add those items.
Motion by June, second by Raz, beat you to it. Second by Raz. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, added to the agenda. Citizen participation. This would be opportunity for the public to address the committee on an item that was not a public hearing item. Okay, hearing and seeing none. Moving on to unfinished old business. Item A, Plainfield Garages and Storage LLC requesting site plan approval to construct 6,000 square foot contractor storage facility. I believe the note from staff was that there was an extension to grant a continuance to December.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to continue to December. Motion by Roz. Second by Frank. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Continued to our next meeting in December. Item B, Lyman Development Corp. requesting a 2-lot subdivision of property located at 226, 230, and 238 Norwich Road, Assessors Map 15, Block 56, Lot 7 and 7A, C1 zoning district. Do we have anyone to speak for the applicant?
Yes, good evening. For the record, my name is Bruce Woods with KWP Associates and Archer Survey, representing Ron Lyman. I have revised subdivision plans that I can pass up for the commissioners. So this is, used to be a former car dealership, a repair garage. They're all existing buildings, and currently there are 2 parcels of land. And so what we're doing is we're creating a subdivision so that each building can be on its own parcel of land, so we can either lease or sell each of the buildings individually. The history of this is that, I don't have a screen or anything, but this is the current parcel line. So 2 of the buildings are on a 5-acre parcel, and the remaining building is on a much larger, is the current property line right here. Okay. So essentially, this is a 2-lot subdivision because we're basically turning 2 existing lots into 3. So it's a little bit convoluted redivision, but at any rate, first sheet is the subdivision plan. The second sheet is the site development plan, showing a couple of new access driveways to be constructed to serve the individual buildings right now. They're all sharing accesses and parking lots and what have you. Not proposing any parking lots, but we are proposing access drives. The plans have been approved by the Wetlands Commission. There's a small area of wetlands, it's more of a drainage way over the lower left-hand side of the property, right here, which is collects drainage and funnels it into the highway drainage system. And the new driveway is also permitted by DOT, and they actually plan to construct the driveway on the left-hand side before winter. The plans have been reviewed by town staff and also the town review engineer, Chuck Eaton. We've had a lot of back and forth in the last couple of weeks to try and address all the comments of Chuck Eaton and of Ryan. At this point, I might open it up to Ryan or Mary Ann with any comments that they might have.
So I have just a couple of questions. Chuck cannot be here tonight. On his comments, number 13, it says the revised site plans must include a summary of the impervious area and the impervious area removed and added to verify reduction of impervious surface area. Did you do that on these plans? or-
They did get on the plans.
Okay, so we could do that.
We did the
for-
calculations,
Yeah.
and there could be a condition of approval, but the calculation of new pavement is about 9,000 square feet. The pavement to be removed is about 19,000 square feet. So it's almost a 2-to-1 ratio of pavement being removed to new pavement. So we are achieving a reduction, which is his main concern. We can make it a condition of approval that those
And would that be added as a note on the plan?
Yeah, it would be added as a note on the site.
Comment number 3, stockpile locations, is it going to be removed from site or stockpile?
We added a stockpile in the latest version of the plans that we have here. Yeah, Chuck didn't get to see the latest revised plans.
Number 2, any silt fence around the west of the pavement that has been removed?
Yes, we did propose that is on the plans. That the initial silt fencing line was along here.
Because of the slope of that front.
The slope of the front, this pavement's already removed, so the lower edge of the slope is removed.
So I am satisfied with the plans, the town engineer is satisfied. So this is a subdivision of property, creating one new lot. We do have existing non-conforming buildings as far as the property lines go. So right here, we do have non-conforming use. This is the original property line, it's not being modified, so this is fine.
Yeah, so instead of 25 for the side yard, the existing property line is 19 feet from the corner of the building. But as Ryan indicated, that's the existing line is, it is sometime 93.
Any questions from board members regarding this application? Okay. There's also two items, two waiver requests. So the first is a waiver of section 6.10 of subdivision regulations regarding the property history. So as staff had noted, the first division of the property occurred and was recorded in the town clerk's records as map number 567, sheet 4.
Yeah, we've actually included it in our set as the fourth sheet for the record.
All right. And then the second request was a waiver of section 6.10 of subdivision regulations regarding sidewalks. And staff noted that this particular area does not currently have sidewalks. So it may not be best used to put a sidewalk where there's no connection along the road. So those are the two items for the board to consider. We usually do consider waivers prior to any additional approval. For condition of approval, Ryan noted town engineering fees to be determined, to be paid within 30 days of billing and prior to recording of Mylars. And we did have the staff to add a note on the site development map requiring the impervious surface removal in addition. So any other items for discussion?
One correction, my staff report was incorrect.
Okay.
So the property history map,
Yeah.
which was waiver number 1, is actually 11.28, not 6.10.
Okay. 11.28. So for consideration, for board members, if you wanted to consider the waiver of the property history map, I would entertain a motion on that waiver.
So moved.
I have a motion by Frank to approve the waiver.
Second.
I have a second by Roz. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The waiver of 11.28 property history map is approved. Item 2 was the waiver of section 6.10 of subdivision regulations regarding sidewalks. Do I have a motion on that waiver request?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by June to approve the waiver, second by Roz. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Second waiver is also requested, approved. I'll entertain a motion on the application, and if you could include the conditions as read.
Make that motion. Include the conditions as read.
Okay, I have a motion by June to approve with the conditions as read.
Second.
I have a second by Frank. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Application is approved with those conditions as noted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How many copies would you like to keep?
Only one is going to
All right, thank you.
Thanks very much for your time, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to item C. Robert Jones requesting an accessory dwelling unit under section 12.28.2 at 155 Weston Road, Assessors Map 3, Lot 51, Lot 13, RA 60 zoning district. Are there any items of discussion for board members? Okay, hearing none, were there any other items from staff?
Nope, just a reminder to the applicant that this will have to be recorded in the town clerk's office before it becomes effective.
Okay, And staff did note in his report, suggested condition of approval, zoning and building permits are required, NDDH, Northeast District of Department of Health, I believe is the abbreviation, approval is required. So do I have a motion on the application with those conditions? I have a motion by Roz to approve with those conditions as read. June has seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Application is approved with those conditions. Thank you. All right, moving on to new business, item A, which is 22-AZC of 55 East Main LLC, care of William R. Sweeney Esquire, requesting text amendment to sections 7.21.1, 7.22.1, 7.23.1, 7.24.1, 8.21, and adding new section 12.47 for the purpose of allowing multifamily housing. As a text amendment, this does require a public hearing. So I'll entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
Motion by Roz.
Scheduled for when?
Oh, December, next regularly scheduled meeting?
Next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, so December meeting?
The applicant is here to make a brief presentation if you would like to, just with your over some things.
I think we usually just let it go to the public hearing. Do board members want to hear anything from the applicant prior to the public hearing?
I'm only going to think that if they're here.
Yeah, okay. Applicant, if you want to step and give a very brief summary, as we will be at a public hearing next month.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman.
Thank you.
Members of the commission, my name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a land use attorney and partner of the law firm at Tobin Carberry in New London, Connecticut. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening, and I will be brief because there is a public hearing that's required for this application. I represent Connecticut Limited Liability Company known as 55 East Main Street LLC. They're a property owner here in Plainfield. One of the principals, Mr. Ray Rivero, is with me here tonight. We are seeking a variety of modifications to your regulations, including a new section, section 12.47. And together, these changes and modifications to the zoning code are intended to expand, diversify, and enhance opportunities for multifamily housing development here in the town of Plainfield in a variety of zoning districts, all subject to special permit approval. And to introduce myself, I know you just got this application. I haven't had a chance to read it, so I'm not going to go over it in detail. I'm going to save that for the public hearing. But I do want to say just briefly, the demographics of Eastern Connecticut are changing, and they're changing rapidly. The prominence of the so-called nuclear family with mom and dad and 2.5 children with a single-family house with a white picket fence, those days are really behind us. And there's a lot of new living arrangements and demand for different types of housing. And that's actually evidenced in your plan of conservation and development. We talk about that quite a bit. Young people are more transient than they've ever been. They're looking to grow up children later in their life. They're looking for different housing opportunities. Older folks are trying to downsize and stay in the communities where they grew up and raised children. And workers, and there's going to be a lot of workers coming into this community over the next few years with some of the major development that's happening, are looking for modern housing opportunities with amenities and modern and significant packages to them. So what we're trying to do with this regulation, and as I'll describe next month for you, is we're trying to open up Plainfield as an opportunity area for new reinvestment for multifamily housing. Towns that are in the position to respond will get this new reinvestment, will get these new residents. There's already tremendous demand in Eastern Connecticut for new modern multifamily housing. And we think that it's something that Plainfield can position itself and really take advantage of. So please take, over the next few weeks, take the time to go through the proposed regulation. The first sections are really just adding multifamily housing to various zoning districts. It's really that section 12.47 that's so important. And so what you'll see there is that we're adding multifamily housing to a variety of districts, but subject to specific requirements, eligibility requirements, and subject to those standards as applied across the board, whatever zone It is, in those standards range from things like minimum lot area, the frontage on a state highway, to having municipal water and sewer, but it also includes things like setbacks and buffers to adjacent properties, as well as some architectural standards as well. So from our perspective, this is an exciting opportunity to sort of position Plainfield going forward as a place where people can come and invest and build housing. And when you can build housing for these people that are coming into this area, you can keep them in this town. You can have their children go to your schools. You can have their disposable income spent in local businesses. I think it's really important for all the good work that's going on here in Plainfield. So we're excited about this proposal, and we certainly look forward to seeing you next month and going through it in greater detail. Thank you. Senator.
Thank you. Roz had posed a motion.
A second.
You have a second by Frank. All in favor of scheduling a public hearing to our next regularly scheduled meeting in December? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Scheduled for December.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. All right, item B, 22-9ZC of Planning and Zoning Commission, requesting general update to zoning regulations, add EV charging stations, eliminate minimum floor area requirements for homes, add hospitals to commercial zones, modify earth excavation monitoring well specs, modify abandonment of non-conforming uses in compliance with current case law. This will also require a public hearing. Was there anything you wanted to present this evening, Ryan?
Just say that this started off as adding electric vehicle chargers, but there are some housekeeping matters that the regulations are outdated on, and I just want to clean those up at the same time.
So just in your review, found a few other items that,
Yeah, going through the regulations, there are things that are outdated and no longer apply.
no longer apply because of case law, because of just archaic language, or?
Case law, statute changes, things of that nature.
All right, this does require a public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to schedule the public hearing for the charging stations for the December meeting.
Okay, I have a motion by Frank to schedule the proposed text amendment to the next regularly scheduled meeting, second by Roz. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, scheduled for public hearing in December. Moving on to item C, 22-10ZC of Plainfield Garages and Storages LLC, requesting an amendment to zoning map for 750 Norwich Road, change from RA 19 to C2 Commercial, Assessor's Map 17, Block 36A, Lot 15. So this is a map amendment change, correct?
Yes.
So that does also require a public hearing. So I'll entertain a motion
Make that motion. Send it to public hearing.
at our next regularly scheduled meeting.
In December, yes.
Okay, so I have a motion by June to schedule for public hearing in December. Second by Ross. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, scheduled public hearing in December. Moving on to reviewing and acting on the minutes of the October 11th meeting. Was there any items for revision on those minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make that motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by June,
I'll second.
second by Frank. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Oh, and one abstention. Minutes are accepted. Moving on to correspondence.
I have,
No correspondence. Report from zoning enforcement.
I was unable to get the report this month.
Okay, and there are court case updates that will need to be included?
Well, nothing that could present.
Sure. But are there updates to be included?
Nothing since last month.
Okay. So if something should arise, then we can have executive session as an option if needed. Report from planning and development.
I have nothing to add.
All right. So we had under other, the meeting dates for 2023. Sticking with the second Tuesday of the month, 7 p.m. It does not appear, well, actually, yeah, it doesn't appear there are any holiday conflicts. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting schedule for 2023. Motion by Roz to accept.
Second.
Second by Frank. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing, seeing none, meeting dates are set for 2023, second Tuesday of the month, 7 p.m. And seeing no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by June. Second by Roz. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.